Hi, and welcome to my shop. We're in Oxford, Connecticut. This building behind me here started out as a very basic two-car garage, uninsulated slab floor, just a few windows. I spent some time converting it into a very comfortable workplace. It's a good four-season woodworking shop now. The obvious change to the building was the removal of a big garage door here. So I put in a window, add insulation, some siding, an entry door. I've got some nice natural light coming in now. I've kept one garage door. These are great for access for machinery and large pieces of lumber. So that's it for the outside. Let's go inside. Well, I've managed to fill up this little shop with all sorts of stuff. I've got machinery, large and small. I've got lumber, I've got hardware, I've got hand tools, sharpening equipment, miscellaneous parts. I'm not sure why I haven't kept. I've got clamps, I've got more clamps. But still, in a little space is about 400 plus square feet. It works for me. But before filling the shop up with all these great tools, I considered one important thing, and that's workflow. Workflow is the process by which you move lumber through the shop on different machinery. The solution to efficient workflow in a shop is to position tools and lumber in such a way that you avoid zigzagging around the building. In this case, I've got my lumber rack against the back wall. Enough space here for 10-foot long boards. Right beneath it, a chop saw. Cut boards to length, rough length. I also have my drill press table set to the same height here. It's a good outfeed support. Next stop would be the joiner planer. This is a combination machine. You don't see a lot of these in the US, but they're very popular in Europe, where shop space is a premium. This is great. In one footprint here, I've got two tools in one. My next stop would be the table saw, and that's just a few steps away. Here I can finish ripping boards to width. And that's what I mean when I say efficient workflow. I know it's a small shop, but why waste time wandering back and forth? The centerpiece of my shop is filled by a table saw, very typical in most shops. This is a 3-horsepower cabinet saw meaning enclosed base. It's good for dust collection, and the horsepower rating is good for cutting thick timbers like this. Underneath, I've got some storage for things like cross-cut sleds, other jigs. I've got a wide rail here for a wide fence. This allows me to cut sheet goods to width. Pieces of plywood like this are no problem at all on my saw. And last, it's important to position your saw in the shop so that you've got more than 8 feet in front of it and 8 feet behind it, again, for cutting sheet goods like this. In this corner of the shop, just to the left of the entry door, is my dust collector. This is a cyclone unit, horse and a half, just about right for a shop this size. The chips fall in this barrel here, which is easy to empty. The fine dust continues on through the little canister there. Now I've set the ductwork up to minimize the length of run. So I've got it running up along the window here. It drops down just behind the table saw. It feeds both the table saw and the joiner planer, the machines that create the most dust in the shop. Behind my table saw, I keep a router table, shop made. It's on wheels. Access here to the router. I had a little problem with wrenches. I kept misplacing them, so I got a little piece of plastic pipe, screwed it to the leg of this table here, and I keep every wrench for every router I own, and have ever owned probably, in that little pocket. Along the side of this table, I've got storage for lots of bits. The fence is shop made. There's screws in here so I can open and close the faces of the fence. I just clamp it down with these kind of clamps here, and it's close to this area because right here I've got a hose for my dust collector that just fits to this piece right here. This is my workbench. It's a classic European style workbench with vices over here in the front and the rear. I've got this little ugly piece of plywood I've screwed down here. It's just a bench stop and planing. Now, one thing I tell people who ask me about this bench as far as what I like and don't like about it, well, the fact it's only 13 inches wide here, that's a little bit inadequate. If I made another one, I'd go 24 inches wide, and forget about this tool tray. It's got all kinds of junk. It's important to have tools nearby, so I've got a rack for my chisels, measuring devices. Down below, a tray for my hand planes. It's up against the window. It's important to have good light when you're working. For extra light, I've got this overhead light here, and a little magnifier, so I can get a really good look at my mistakes. And in this corner of the shop is a compressor. I do spray finishing, that's why I got a large unit like this. I've plumbed it with black pipe over to a pretty good sized filter Very important to get clean air when you're doing spray finishing. Got a hose reel beneath us here. It's good for getting air to any part of the shop, or on a hot day like today, cooling off a little bit. Now this corner of my shop has multiple uses. Right now, it's for finishing. Now I can do wipe-on finishing, or I can do spray finishing, which is what I've set it up for now. I hang up this tarp, which helps protect the rest of the shop from overspray. I've got a Lazy Susan. And the most important part is, of course, the overspray fumes. And so to deal with that, I've got this fan in a box here with a filter. It's against the window to prevent blowback by putting this piece of plywood in place, these little cam locks. And with this setup, I'm ready to go. Now, sharpening is not one of my favorite activities, but having a dedicated area like this, well, it's great because I've got no excuse not to sharpen my tools now. Plus, it's kind of a dirty area, and keeping it off in the corner keeps all that grit off my workbench. An important element in designing your shop is figuring out the right amount of light. So I did some research, and I ended up with 9 fluorescent fixtures. These each have 2 bulbs, 4 foot long. It's perfect for the shop. Additionally, it's really important to have task lighting places where you really need it. Because you know what they say, after age 40, you can't have too much light. One of the things I did to make the shop more comfortable is to cover up the slab floor. Now, slab floors are really cold in the winter. And so when I put down these 2x2 panels, a material called Drycore, available from home centers, it adds an insulation value, it's comfortable to walk on, and should you happen to drop a carefully honed tool, well, the edge will never get dinged. I've often read in woodworking magazines that you can't have too many clamps. That's not true. I've got lots of clamps, as you can see. I've got clamps that I'm not even sure how they work. This is my clamp can, so I can move it around the shop. And then above me here is a real solid welded steel rack. Now in any shop, storage space is at a premium, and this shop is no exception. So I put up plywood for the walls instead of sheetrock. Plywood's great because you can put screws in anywhere and hang up anything you got to hang up. Now there are a lot of tools, such as this plane, which is probably close to 100 years old, which you expect to see in a workshop. But there's a new tool, a computer. Now whether you're setting up shop, learning new techniques, or just needing some inspiration, it's all available online. One great thing about going online these days is video. A whole bunch of video content that will help you with techniques. And you guessed it, when I go online, I go to findwoodworking.com. And that's a short tour of my shop. Thanks for coming.